this video, I'll show you how I painted these pine cones with three colors. I lightened the pencil lines using a kneaded eraser on the left pine cone, which I will paint first. This is part 2 of my autumn 2023 series, in which last week I posted a watercolor tutorial on how I painted a realistic pumpkin. As much as I would like to share a real-time tutorial, I think it would be better if I would post only a short version because it took me 3 hours to finish these pine cones. Anyway, I will guide you on the step-by-step process because I'm sharing with you how I painted from the start until I finish these cute pine cones. For the first layer, I use a tea consistency of the mix of burnt umber and scarlet. I have two mixes of these two colors. So the first one is with tea consistency that I use now, and the other has milk consistency with less water. I also use Van Dyke brown on the dark areas and mix them with the burnt umber and scarlet. I always paint section by section. I don't paint the first layer with one color and add saturated color on the second layer. For me, it's still best to paint section by section because I can concentrate more on the highlights and shadows on each part. I do not paint the entire thing with one color and add another layer with darker ones. It happened to me before. I painted the entire thing and added another layer for the midtones, but then I messed up with the areas that were supposed to be lighter or shouldn't painted on it. You can do so if that's your style, but I'm more confident in painting section by section. Started painting on the top going down and left to right to avoid accidentally smudging my painting with my hand. I always look at the reference photo to see which parts of the pine cones have lighter colors and which parts do not. I zoom in on the areas I work on so you can see clearly what I do. I use silver black velvet round brush size 2 for painting because this is a detailed work. I also have my size 4 brush in case I need to soften some areas. I dipped my brush in just one color mix this time. There were times I also dipped my brush into my water and removed the excess water to have a lighter value. I know my brush very well and I know how much water it can hold, so I'm confident in dipping my brush into the water from time to time as I paint. Even if I paint section by section, I always keep in mind to following the shape of each part of the pine cones to avoid them looking flat on my paintings. If you would like to try to paint these pine cones or the whole thing, I provided the link to the reference photo from Unsplash and the printable outline in the description box below. If you haven't seen the first part of this series, which is the pumpkin, then check the link in the description box or see the card that will appear at the upper right of the screen. Next week, I will share with you how I painted the small acorns and the background on the following week. So I hope you can join me in finishing this series before we move on to the holiday subjects. If you find this video helpful, kindly tap the like button. If you want to see videos like this, consider subscribing and make sure you have the bell notification on so you'll be notified if I upload a new video. To be honest, I felt so intimidated when I was a beginner to paint some realistic subjects like these, but then it took me courage to try it and I enjoyed painting with details a lot. I found it more satisfying than painting something loose. Remember to always look at the reference photo as you paint. You will see the details, the colors, the lights and shadows you'll need for your painting. If you are having a hard time in looking for the highlights and shadows, I suggest to make the reference photo black and white and then increase the contrast. I also recommend to have the reference photo on your phone so you can zoom in and out to see even the tiny details and colors. It's better than printing the reference photo. If you haven't tried painting something with details like this, I suggest giving it a try to get out of your comfort zone. It's one way to improve your work and skills faster. Staying in our comfort zone will make you stagnant. try to paint other subjects, try to experiment, and try other techniques. I only lighten the pencil lines every time I'm about to start the part of the painting. I don't erase or lighten the pencil lines on the whole painting. I also do it section by section. This time the pine cone is standing up. The other one is lying down and the tip is right at the front. I think I erased too much that I can barely see the lines. It's one of the mistakes I need to get rid of because it happens all the time. I got lost somewhere in the middle, but I look into the reference photo again and again to see where I got lost and where I was at the moment. I use the same mixture of burnt umber and scarlet with a tea consistency. Even if there are some obvious dark areas in this pine cone, it is still best to paint from light to dark. In that way, you can make adjustments on the next layer by adding saturated colors. When you paint dark at first, it is difficult to lift up the colors. I started painting at the top in some parts that have lighter value like the tips and the sides. In painting this pine cone, I follow the shape and as I look at the reference photo, the areas that are curved are darker. I built up the colors as I painted and adding darker tones can help to show the shape, form, and depth of the subject. I also added some darker tones with the Van Dyke brown with a bit of burnt umber and scarlet, but not very saturated. This technique helps me a lot to easily see the shadows on my painting and compare it with the reference photo. I will continue painting, but I will play relaxing music to match the mood, and I'll come back later if I need to explain the process. Painting these pine cones is tedious, but it is good practice for painting light and shadow. I went back to the first pine cone to add shadows and to define the shape of each part, like the curves. I used the milk consistency of burnt umber and scarlet this time. I also used the Van Dyke brown for the darkest areas of the pine cones. I did the same with the other one. By this time, if you paint these pine cones, you should be able to see clearly the shape of each part of the pine cones. If not, take a photo of your painting and look at it. You'll be able to see if there's something wrong or missing in your painting. If you find this video helpful, kindly tap the like button. If you want to see videos like this, consider subscribing and make sure you have the bell notification on so you'll be notified if I upload a new video. I painted these for more than 3 hours, but I admit I'm a slow painter. For me, it is not important how fast you can finish the painting. It is more important I make a painting. Every painting is a masterpiece for me. The reason I divided this painting into 4 parts is because it took me 3 days to complete this whole painting. First day with the pumpkin for 4 hours, then the next day is the pine cones that took me then 3 hours, then 2 hours for the acorns, and 30 to 45 minutes for the background. As much as I would like to finish the painting in one sitting, I have a baby to take care of and other mommy responsibilities.